Oh, thanks, Conrad. That was my new theme song that I wrote.
That's
This is
right.
my show called Sup Holmes. Oh, what are you doing talking? Don't talk yet. No one's supposed to know you're here. Welcome, everybody, to Sup Holmes. It's a talk show. It's a real talk show like you see on TV, exactly like that. Except it's in my cat room where my cat litter is, and it's just me with a webcam actually talking to people I know. But it's exciting because I know people you don't know that are in the video game industry, and I got a microphone. Does it work? Did you hear? I sound exactly the same with the microphone as I did without it, don't I, Tyrone? It's the same. You can talk now, Tyrone, if you want. Do you want to talk? What? You're totally mute! You can't be mute, Tyrone! Don't just move your mouth. Make real sounds when you move your mouth next time. How do you sound now? Are you talking now?
I think I sound like this.
That is how you sound. You sound great. We look alike, people say.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Like your brother. I'm flattered by that because you're a handsome young man with a full head of hair.
That's what I was going to say.
You are Tyrone. Say that again?
I was going to say the same thing about you.
Oh, thanks. I do have a... No, I... You bastard. I don't know your So you are Tyrone Rodriguez. You are the CEO of Nicalis. Is that how I say it?
That's how you say it, yes.
That's how you taught me to say it last time that we talked. And you do things, you make video games. You publish them, you help create them. You are getting bigger and bigger. Your first game you published was Cave Story WiiWare, right?
Right. That was our first official publishing deal.
And since then you published Cave Story on DSiWare. Cave Story 3D is your first retail release. You recently put out VVVVVV on the eShop on the 3DS, and you put Night Sky out on Mac?
Mac, PC, and Linux.
I missed those. Rats. Okay, because
Yeah.
I got
But it's coming to 3DS, so you don't have to miss them very much.
Oh yeah, that's right. When's it coming out on 3DS?
It should be out still. We're still targeting for Q1. It's just about done. We're fixing a couple of optimization issues and trying to get the 3D to look 3D. Very articulate.
So you're working on it. You're not just rushing it out. You could just put it out now and be like,
We could put it out right now. We could submit it tomorrow. It'd probably pass, but we wouldn't be happy with it. So we'll probably work on it for another month, submit, and try to get it out from just in time till end, probably March.
Awesome. Things are looking up on the eShop. People, devs I've talked to who are making eShop games are saying they're actually profiting off them now, which is exciting. Oh, and could you tell us anything about how you feel about the BDBBBBB profits on eShop? Do you have any comment on that, Tyrone?
I can tell you we're super happy with the reception and how many people have been buying it, downloading it, but more than that, if you look at if you click on the reviews for any 3DS, you can see how many stars a game gets, and I think it's in excess of, last time I checked, probably 1,500 reviews, and most of them are 5 stars. So people seem to love the game, and it just speaks to sort of Terry's awesome design ideas.
Yeah, awesome. I'm so glad that made money. You never know these days with Nintendo platforms and third parties, be it download or retail, whether they're going to actually make their money back.
I think they turned it around for the eShop, though.
That is, I'm sure you're aware of. But I wonder, that brings us to our topic, which today the topic is video game journalism, good, bad, and the ugly. You are an ex-video game journalist. You wrote for Tips and Tricks magazine in, what was that, the late 90s, early aughts?
The late 90s, ended in 2000, wrote for GameFan, IGN, did some freelancing for various other publications, most of which don't exist because they were print.
Right, right. So you know video game journalism from doing it, and now as a developer, you know what it's like to deal with video game journalists on the other end. What do you think of video game journalism today compared to how it was and how it could be in your mind? What do you think? How are we doing? You doing?
I think it's going pretty well. Honestly, when I started, it was you had to write a few stories every month, and it was I'd say in some ways it was easy because the industry as a whole was much slower, and part of that has to do with the internet being slower back then. When you're talking 14K modems and X-band and all. And it was just
sure.
now people want the information instantly, so you guys have to keep up, and I think it's a lot bigger game to keep track of as far as the industry, the business, companies closing, companies opening, reviewing games on time, being competitive. It's a much tougher business to be an editorial than it was, I think, 15 years ago.
Whoa, that's so compassionate. That is not what I expect. Because what I get from a lot of developers is, you guys lie, you guys drum up controversy where there isn't any. You say that you know, all Nintendo third-party platform, all third-party Nintendo games bomb, and therefore people don't take our games seriously anymore when we make them for Nintendo consoles. You know, I get a lot of hate from developers, residual hate. I didn't get any hate from you at all. You can, if you got hate, you can give it to me. I can take it.
I don't know. I mean, for me, it's editorial has to do your job just like PR has to do their job. Developers have to do our jobs as well. And your job is to get people to read your site, whether you sensationalize it, whether it's the truth, whether it's a rumor, whatever it is. Going back to when the WiiWare version of Cave Story came out, Jim took a quote that I did in another interview, basically saying that the industry was going towards a lot of fluff, like God of War. And
oh yeah, I remember that. That was exciting. I submitted that tip, and then Jim wrote
that was awesome. And the ironic part was where people were just verbally raping me because they thought I was a Nintendo fanboy, and the truth is I'm actually a big Sony fanboy. But I really do think games like God of War are fluff, where you play for 5 minutes and then you watch for 40 minutes. But it's interesting because that was just a quote taken. Jim didn't say pro or con. He just let sort of the mob decide what it was, and they took it as their own. And it's interesting to me that people blame media for a lot of things, but I think there's a lot of bandwagoning done on the part of readers, for good or for bad. For instance, I mean, that was my opinion, and I think as a game developer, but more so as somebody who still buys games, I'm entitled to my opinion, and that's my opinion of where the game industry was going. And I could see how other developers might take ill of what that was, but to me, it was news. You know, he was covering what one developer said about another console, and
yeah, that's a huge deal, and that's a rare thing actually. As a video game journalist, I can say that getting a developer to talk about anything other than just their game is incredibly hard, and that's not usually the developer's fault. That's the pressure the publishers put on them, because it's such a very secretive, kind of insecure industry we're in. It's not hard at all to get an actor or a director to say what their favorite movies or least favorite movies are, but you're gone. Did you just fly into a rage and have to like run away because what I said was so...
I just spit at the wall. No, I had to close the door. There was, I think I was about to get stampeded by bulls. With a U, not an A.
Well, thank you for doing that. But I was rambling on about how secretive the industry is now. It makes it hard as a journalist to get anything other than press releases and kind of canned responses. So when you come out and say something that took some guts, took some bravery, and took some integrity to give an honest opinion instead of just kind of a canned PR line about Cave Story and how it's really cool. Like, I can think of other developers that would have said the exact opposite, would have tried to like buy into the fandom of God of War and said something along the lines of Cave Story is like God of War but in 2D and cute.
Oh my gosh.
Which isn't entirely true. But that basically what I'm saying is thank you for your honesty, Tyrone. No. You make my job much better, and you were willing to show up on my show. Not everyone was willing.
Thank you for having me. I just think that I think developers and publishers, sometimes we take video game fans and journalists for granted. We assume that they're just going to, just the way politicians do it to the average American, we assume they're going to believe whatever we say. And people aren't like that anymore. They're more skeptical, they're more realistic, they have an understanding of how games work, they understand about delays. There's a ton of different variables in game development that aren't directly related to game development, like paperwork, like business development, and all these things have an effect on games. And I feel that from having interest in other hobbies, I feel that game players in particular are very savvy about the game industry, especially the really hardcore fans. They understand how things roll, so there's no need for us to talk to them like children, even if they are children.
Sure, but in many ways they're more sophisticated than sometimes I think the PR guys who are doing their job, because they love video games. And a lot of people, sadly, I know, who work in the industry, be it PR, be it publishing, not really developing, but in PR and publishing, there's a lot of people that don't actually love video games. They're in it because it's a job. And I don't think that... Say that again?
They're in it for the money a lot of times because now the game industry has this image of having money, at least in certain departments. PR people and marketing people do make a lot of money.
And they spend a lot of money. Have you been to those parties with the cheese? and the 3D TV giveaways? And
you missed the 90s. You should have seen how much they spent in the 90s.
Was it more or less in the 90s?
It was, I would say it was a lot more with
really?
How they spent and just how the money was rolling around. It was just, in a way, it was similar to a bubble where the publishers couldn't do wrong. They were spending with big budgets. They constantly fly us out. The events were pretty extravagant. And now the events I've seen, they are, they're more direct. They're just about covering. You go, you fly somewhere, you look at your game generally, and then you fly back. They're still spending a lot of money on you.
Yeah.
But it's nowhere near. For instance, in the car industry, Toyota might have a launch for a random Corolla, and then they fly first class 30 journalists to Japan just because they want them to drive the Corolla in Japan instead of here. So compared to other industries, I think the game industry has really learned a little bit better how to be more mature.
Huh. I'm not as experienced with you when it comes to that. To me, I've walked into the industry. I've been writing about video games for about 4 years, and maybe only the past two years or so have I been seen as someone who's worth spending money on. So, I do get companies offering to fly me out and do things every once in a while to try to win me over. I just got a heart-shaped box of chocolates from Nintendo the other day for Valentine's Day, and also to review their new game. So I'm getting a little bit of that now, and I think it's usually pretty insane, and I'm shocked that they're willing to even do that. And it sounds like for you, you've seen even more than that in the past, and you think the industry is getting back to getting more normalized in terms of how much money they waste. But it's still so much money. Do you think it works? Do you think, like, as a publisher, do you wish you had a $50,000 or $500,000 marketing budget so you could fly me out to just like lie in the grass and play Cave Story for a couple of days and then come back home? Do you think that would get me to talk about your game in a more positive way?
I don't know if it would or wouldn't. And the coming from editorial, the big issue I see, particularly for now, that editorial has been driven more online. You guys don't have the time to fly out for 3 or 4 days. That's 3 or 4 days that you can't write about. So if it's not something compelling, if I can't fly you out to Kyoto and hang out with Daisuke Amaya, the creator of Cave Story, for a day and watch him make a game, something short of that, it's probably not worth it for you. I mean, we could spend the money and we could say, oh, this is great. We got 10 guys to come out and then they had a round table and did a Q&A. But couldn't you do that Q&A via email, and then you could get a lot more done or play more games?
That's true. A lot of people are saying that E3, actually Anthony Birch is the first person who said this, and a lot of people have said it to me since. They don't see the point of having E3 be a live event anymore. They think it should just be 3 days of online press releases and, video trailers being put out and release of demos and stuff like that. Because there's really not one aspect of E3 that you can't do online anymore. You could release all of those demos online to the press at the same time. You could release all that information online. And as someone who's tried to do coverage of E3, I've found that the people at home who aren't at the event are getting news faster than I am, because I'm, in line somewhere or in the bathroom or signing autographs or something, which is flattering. I love signing
Getting
autographs.
stopped by a PR person in the hallway.
Yeah, I stopped by you in the hallway and played Story with you, kneeling down under some dim lighting. That was a lot of fun. Thanks for doing that time.
No, that was a good time. There are a few things, though, for anyone not to know, there are a few things at E3 that probably would be a little more difficult to do, and it's less likely now given the size of the industry, where E3 is also a buyer's event where people from Toys R Us or GameStop or Best Buy or Target, they'll go and check out these games because they don't have the time to go to EA or to go to Ubisoft or go to Nintendo on a regular basis to see these games. So in that way, E3 allows these people who make the buying decisions for these large companies to be able to see the games and meet with the people responsible for trying to sell them the games.
Boy, you're smart. I would have never thought of that. Is that Bulls again?
It's Bulls again.
I can't hear them at all. I'm going to read a couple of questions because people sent us questions. Let's see. One is from a guy named Ken. He said, he's noted that game journalists can only pass on information that they are given. Many are said that video games are too focused to allow for anything else. Do you think there's any point to actual investigative journalism about video games? And if so, if better business practices were revealed, detrimental infighting attitudes unmasked, would that be beneficial to the industry? That's a pretty interesting question. When you were working for Tips and Tricks, did you ever try to reveal secret tips and tricks the industry didn't want you to know? Like, what do you investigate as a video game journalist? I personally, other than asking developers and publishers if they want to tell me something, I don't expect there's any way I can find out what their numbers are or what their hiring practices are or what their secret canceled games are and stuff like that. The industry has never been like that, and I don't imagine it ever will be. And if it were, I'm not imagining it would make that big of a difference to people. But it speaks to, the whole question speaks to this idea that video game journalists, and I still say it in quotes, isn't a real, it's not real journalism, because real journalism is hard-hitting and for the people and going to wars and finding out things the government doesn't want you to know and stuff like that. But we're just kind of talking about stuff we enjoy and revealing news about it and giving an opinion about it. People want it to be more than that. I think that they're thinking that if it is more than that, it will be legit. I don't see anything illegitimate about sharing your passion for stuff. What do you think, Tyrone? What do you want? What do you think?
I'm probably in a similar line of thinking to you. It'd be interesting to see...
Oh no! Can you hear me?
Oh no!
Are you
there? Can you hear me? Am I still here?
I'm here.
Okay, I hear.
I don't know where. Yeah, I think we're both still here together.
Yeah, I think we're together. So I will.
Yeah, Conrad's doing something. For those who don't know, we're watching the show, but we're together. Okay.
Great. Now they know.
What? Your answer's gone. Nope. Now you're smiling at me. You look great. You got pretty good teeth. Man.
Thank you. You too. You too. But I think we lost our engineer. So okay, so I don't know if it's actually recording.
We did, but he's secretive like that. Our engineer is Conrad Zimmerman. Yeah, do it.
You guys are fine.
Okay.
Keep going.
I think we have lag problems.
We're good.
So I'm just going to be quiet until you talk.
All right. I don't think it's necessary. I think it might be interesting for a very small percentage of the game industry and for the general enthusiasts. But will it get anything? Generally, the news and the leaks that you break today are just people you piss off tomorrow. And it doesn't, I don't think it has any long-term benefits. And it more has a short-term negative effect. So if you leak something, if I say, hey, we're working on Cave Story 2, and I told you this, and you release the news, well, I'm probably going to be mad at you because you leaked it, but it won't get you anything other than a day's worth of traffic. And going in that direction, I think there are some benefits, but it has to be very specific. Like, for instance, I'm not an activist, but I do like whenever Apple comes up with Foxconn for how they treat the employees, that's interesting to me because that's a very popular product and we're all responsible for buying it and making it popular. And there's people suffering for it while they're making it, while they're in the creation of it. And if there was a similar, I don't want to say, I guess maybe injustice in the game industry, it would probably be good to know. I don't think, however, the behind-the-scenes information is generally of that level in the game industry.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I was encouraged by the way SOPA and Pippa was covered in the game industry of late, and I had the sense that if it weren't for that coverage, those bills might still be on the table. So that kind of serious journalism I'm all for, but I'm not sure if trying to dig things up they're really only, they're interesting, but that information being out there is only going to hurt people in the industry. I'm not sure if that's something I'm interested in doing. And if that's what people wanted me to do for this job, I probably wouldn't want to do it. I'd much rather just talk about how impassioned I am about the things that people do want me to know about. And if I can find out secrets, great, but I'm not going to ruin the lives of developers and publishers by putting them out there. That's my thought, anyway. I wonder if I can take another question. There was a specific question just for you about, I think it was Night Sky, but it might have been something else. I personally wanted to know,
Holmes, if you want to hit the
when
chat
Ikachan,
button
if
in
and
the upper
when
left
that's still
corner
coming to DSiWare. That is a game by Daisuke. What?
there. Go ahead and hit the chat button
Who's
in the upper
hitting
left corner of your
chat?
Hangout. There's questions in there
Conrad?
for you.
Conrad.
So you're asking about Ikachan, right?
Oh. Oh, there is? Oh, awesome. Thank you, Conrad. Conrad Zimmerman, our lovely engineer, who's in and out of this. Yeah, I right off the bat want to know about Ikachan, if I could. Is that still coming? There was a new enemy you talked about in the blog, too, so it sounded like there was more than just porting going on. Whoa! That's the game I want.
That's a game you want, and I wish I could.
Yeah, man. When are you giving me that game, dog?
Pretty soon, dude. So, so right here, I'm having a hard time swimming backwards, but we've actually made a lot of changes to the game. So if you're a fan of the original, and I'm really bad at swimming from a laggy screen, so you'll have to forgive me.
Oh, you're doing it.
Yeah, so this is Ikachan. It's for anybody who doesn't know, it's Daisuke Amaya's game that was created in between the original Cave Story and the finished one. And again, for anyone who doesn't know, he started working on Cave Story. He felt his engineering and design expertise wasn't at the level that it needed to be to make the game he wanted to make for Cave Story, so he kind of put it on hold and then started making this game. And he worked on this game for, I believe, about a year. And then went back to Cave Story. And so in many ways, this game is responsible for the Cave Story that you know and love, because the two versions before Ikachan were vastly different. And what we're doing for Ikachan is we're going back, and it's a lot of fun because we're working with Daisuke directly, even more so probably than we did on the WiiWare, DSiWare, and 3DS versions of Cave Story, where he's redoing the artwork. We're possibly adding new music. We've already added a few new enemies, few new areas, and so the game that you play on PC isn't going to be the one that you can get on DSiWare.
Whoa, so when you said new artwork, is it going to be a full overhaul like Cave Story WiiWare was, or is it just kind of touch-ups, or somewhere in between?
Somewhere in between. The WiiWare version of Cave Story was about 4 times the resolution of the original game. This one has the same resolution, but he's in the last 12 years, he's obviously improved his art and his ability to create pixel art. So he's going back and he's redoing all the artwork. We're programming new enemies for him. We're making new areas together, and it'll be a nice little experience that people can kind of go back and check out.
Wow, sounds more like a 1.5 of the game.
Yeah, that's a good way to think of it.
Ah, that's really. Thank you so much. Okay. You take these games that I want, and I want more of them, and you have to go to the original creators and somehow coerce them into creating more content for games that they had said they may never touch again. Like Daisuke had said, I don't know about Cave Story 2, and yet you've got the Wind Fortress out of him. You have those additional portions from Cave Story 3D that you got put in there. You've gotten him to create more content for games I always wanted, and now you're doing it again. So it's great. And with VVVVV, I read actually in Nintendo Power that you might be able to get the user-created levels online in the future. Is that still something you're tinkering with, or is that something I shouldn't be looking forward to or getting excited about?
No, we're probably going to find some way to ask the internet, basically, because we've gotten a few emails saying, oh, we want user-created levels, and we've seen a few reviews digging the game saying, oh, it didn't have a level editor. But if we're gonna, the level editor, we kind of have it working, but the biggest issue with a level editor is making sure that it works properly and it's easy to use and that people use it. Right. If we spend 3 months of development time making it and putting it together, and then 10 people use it, it's great that 10 people used it, but it wouldn't be worth 3 months for a team to sit there and redevelop the level editor and find a way to make it work, whether through SD card or QR codes or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So honestly, I said it before, and it's really up to the fans. If we have a few emails saying like, "Oh, I really want the level editor work," but we need to know that they want it.
Whoa, that's news to me. Can I write that as a news post after we're done talking?
Yeah, absolutely.
That'll
Go ahead. Go right ahead. I've been very upfront about it, and we've gotten the right kind of support. For instance, with Cave Story Plus on Steam, where we said if people support the game and they show interest in it, and we get the emails, we'll continue to make levels. So we're actually making new levels for Cave Story Plus that will probably be out before summer. And if all goes well, we might be able to feature one of the levels from Cave Story Beta in it.
What?
Yeah.
Did everyone know that already and I just missed it somehow? Because that's blowing my mind.
Nobody knew the last part, that we're probably going to feature a Cave Story Beta level in Cave Story Plus.
That's so badass. Thank you again for making my life good. You make my life good sometimes. Like really good. Like all night here. It's like playing those games all night that you put out there for me. Thanks for that Christmas stuff too. That made me so happy when you did
like
a
it?
complete overhaul. Yeah, it was beautiful. It was such a wonderful, awesome. It's that feeling I used to get, you know, when I first discovered up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, start. I don't get that feeling very often anymore because it's all kind of out there. But that was a legit secret that completely took me by surprise. So thank you. If people don't know what I'm talking about, if you play Cave Story Plus on Steam and on Mac and on the iStore, right? iTunes Store?
The iTunes Store has part of it, yeah. The Steam one is the one that's sort of the big daddy as far as having a massive overhaul for the content.
Right. So if you play Cave Story Plus on Steam on Christmas, the entire game has been revamped to reflect the holidays. So snow is everywhere. The main character looks like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. The bosses like shoot Christmas lights and stuff like that, and tinsel. It was through the entire game. I mean, he didn't revamp absolutely everything, but it seemed about 90%, maybe even 95%.
Yeah, most of the bosses, I think there were only a couple bosses we didn't touch, but even all the way up to the super secret last boss, which I'll still keep secret in case for the few people who haven't gotten there, he's fully Christmas-fied. Yeah,
that was awesome. I'm going to get to these questions before I just selfishly talk about how much I like you, because that's not interesting to people. But I do tend to do that when I interview people I like. All right, so how did this attitude... Oh, I got to read backwards. This is... Oh, the Lupine one wants to know, will the Cave Story that you just talked about feature the beta Balrog? And also, Yuzi Does It wants to know if VVVVVV is out in 3DS in Europe, because he didn't see it on the eShop, and if it's not out, when it's coming out.
So I'll get to Balrog first.
Okay.
The level that we're planning on using or discussing right now doesn't have a boss fight, but it has a decent number of never seen before enemies.
Okay.
So, but it won't have Balrog.
The Wind Fortress for Cave Story Plus technically had a boss fight, but it was kind of a boss fight set around those new curly brace style enemies, which were awesome. Where did that idea come from, by the way? Was that you? Was that you and Pixel? Or was that a collaboration? The way that
was all him. The entire level was all him. The idea of the curly clones was entirely his idea. We only gave a little bit of feedback on the final boss after he had designed and created the boss to make it a tiny bit more interesting. But generally 99.5% is all him. We gave a little bit of feedback and then testing, and that was it. The level was a lot.
Because you know, he was... I'll never forget, I was at my computer, I read an interview with him that our former editor-in-chief, Nick Chester, put on. And he wrote, "I'm a family man. I go to work. This whole video game thing, you know, probably not going to do that anymore, but it was a good time." And then how did you meet him and get him to start making games again and doing this again? Because thank God for you for that. Otherwise, we wouldn't have any of this stuff he's doing.
I think it was, I mean, it sounds really cheesy, but it was all him. I mean, he had a day job and we started working together. He was working part-time at night with us on the games, doing artwork and reviewing, making sure that he was happy with particularly the WiiWare version because it was the first one we worked together. And somewhere between there and then and now, between all the talks, he realized that this is what he wanted to do, and I told him that he needed to do this because A, it's what he loved, people love his games, and he has so many great ideas that he's just sitting on. And finally he saw that he needed to do this. So I can take no credit for it. I think it just, him seeing that there were so many fans for Cave Story and people still loved his games was probably the right kind of encouragement that he needed to make the decision on his own.
Yeah, well, you did it in my mind, so thank you. There's more questions. Do you think a game soundtrack would have
the V question.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
The game's been ready to submit for about since we submitted the U.S. version. However, still waiting on Peggy. That's all I can say without being inappropriate. We're waiting for a review.
Right? Lava Milana, I thought, was ready to go from Nigoro. That's another game that that's another game that you're planning on publishing a while ago in Europe and the United States. But then I think it was the German branch of the review board for video games held it up.
Yeah, it's a little slower there. I can't say slower. It's different. The ESRB here, you send them your documentation, and they're generally pretty quick. It's less than 2 weeks. They're really easy to deal with. They give you a rating and then say thank you and you move on. And it could also be attributed to the time difference. When it's 6 p.m. there, I think it's like 3 a.m. over there in Europe. So it's difficult to actually get somebody on the phone. And I don't speak Dutch.
Dutch, that's it. That's the one they speak. I wonder if I should let the world know we're doing this. I was so excited to do it that I didn't tweet it out loud to my world. I'm going to tweet it out to the people. In the meantime, you can answer a question from Beowulf. Have you ever had to review a game professionally, Tyrone? Or was it mostly writing strategy guides and news and stuff?
Yeah, I did a lot of reviews before and in between Tips and Tricks and after. I did the review of Ikaruga for IGN.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So this is from Beowulf. Do you think a game soundtrack would have a big effect on your review score? And then I'll answer that in a second because I'm just going to tweet to people that we're doing this. Yeah. What do you think of soundtracks? How important is it to the score?
I think if you had asked me maybe before I started reviewing games, I would have said it doesn't have an effect. But now the soundtrack is part of a whole, along with the graphics, the gameplay, and the story, depend obviously on the game. For instance, a friend of mine made a game called Cannibalt. It's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, Adam Atomic, right?
Yes. If you mute, and he actually helped us with Cave Story for Wii. But if you mute Danny Baranowski's soundtrack, the game's still fun, but you lose such a huge dimension and level of depth with the game. So now I can definitely say that yes, absolutely, a good soundtrack done properly for the right level of game is incredibly important.
Yeah, for me the test is if you play a game with the sound off, how do you feel when you play it? Like Mega Man 2, for instance. You play that game with the sound off and you die 3 times, you just want to turn it off immediately. It's the soundtrack to that game that keeps you wanting to play it. It's invigorating, it's encouraging, and it's like when you have a favorite song, you don't mind listening to it over and over again. Yeah. After, at least that's how I am. I find that that's what music often adds, at least for older, more death-heavy games. It certainly works that way for Cave Story. Cave Story didn't have a brilliant soundtrack. I probably would be a lot more discouraged and wouldn't be so willing to explore and to put up with dying when it gets really hard, especially at the end. The music is so good at the end, thank God. Seriously, if that hell level didn't have such beautiful music, I would have never gotten through it. So yeah, that's my answer to that.
Question.
Oh yeah, it was very nice. Let's see. How did your attitude change towards developers when you became one? Because at first, Tyrone, you talked to developers from our end, and now that you're amongst the developers, how has that changed for you to see them in that new light?
I had done some development in the 90s as well, but it was more on the publishing side. I did localization for Atlas and did testing and some design work for Virgin. Worked on some crappy GameCube games in the early 2000s, and also did design work for the Fast and the Furious for PS2 and PSP. But I would say in the last, since we started Nicalis, now I have a much closer relationship with developers and a better understanding of both scheduling, timing, budgets, design ideas, and trying to make a balance. And okay, we have to make a game as good as possible in the time we're given. If it's for a publisher, if it's something where it's a labor of love like Cave Story, well, Daisuke took 5 years to make that game, and he didn't start to make any money off of it until 10 years later. So I would say that between what I did before and now, I have a much better understanding of how developers feel about their games, which is infinitely more important than everything else I learned before, because people like Terry Cavanaugh making V, or Daisuke making Cave Story, or Adam making Cannibalt, they're not making this to become the next billion-dollar company. They're making this because they really love video games and they really want to express themselves in this great, fantastic idea that they have. And to me, that's one of the most important things that I've come away with, having worked with so many developers and making so many friends amongst the development community now.
That's great. That makes me feel great. I recently did an interview in French about what time in life I would want to live in if I could change time periods, and I thought I would want to go back to the 80s, because in the 80s it seems like you could have an indie mentality towards your development process. You didn't have to think, well, this game has to move 5 million units. You could think it'll move 100,000 and that'll be enough money. But at the same time, you still had health insurance and you still had a salary. You didn't have to live like how Edmund McMillan did when he was making Super Meat Boy. His gallbladder burst and he didn't have any money to pay the bills. He had no salary, and he could have ended up in debt or dead over that. That wouldn't have happened if he had been making Super Meat Boy for, say, the NES back in the late 80s. So that's where I hope the industry gets back to. I hope that indie grows enough that you guys can have salaries and health insurance and not basically have to put up a bunch of money up front and hope you don't die and hope your name doesn't suck, and be creative without having that much risk to your life involved. Someone wants to know, for Cave Story Plus, do you recommend the retro music or the newer stuff? That's Jimmy Potts. They're both great, Jimmy Potts. They're both great. You can turn them on and off for a reason, buddy.
Yeah, anytime.
Because they're both so good.
There's 3 now.
And I'm gonna... Someone else asked which Cave Story game I would recommend. I assume they're asking which one you'd recommend, which is really awkward. That's like recommending which one of your daughters someone should marry. That would suck. You on that. But since they're not my kids, I can tell you that Cave Story Plus is a 10 out of 10. That is the best bang for your buck you can get in a Cave Story game, or just about any game. The amount of content you packed in for the budget price that it's released at is astounding. Cave Story 3D is a very special version of Cave Story. I would say, to me, it's not definitive, but it is really interesting. More interesting than Cave Story Plus, because it makes you think about how much background graphics and how much that aesthetic can really affect the overall feel that a game has. So I would say if you love Cave Story, you still have to experience Cave Story 3D because it's so different than the other versions. And the new areas, that one new area where you're like underneath the floating island, that was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
You like that?
Yeah, it was really, really smart. I didn't think, because Cave Story is filled with so many different types of challenges and platforming ideas. I wasn't sure you were going to be able to pack in a whole new idea, but you managed to. It was like no other part of the game, and I loved it. Oh, Conrad just sent me something. Oh well, who knows what it is. I wonder, Conrad, if you're listening, can you tell me, are we able to play any of the audio from the video questions people sent in? Because before we did the show, I asked people to send in video. Sadly, due to technical problems, we can't play the videos, I don't think. But we might be able to do the audio for a couple of them. They're really good questions.
That noise you just heard was actually me checking to see if I could get the videos to work.
Oh, is that Conrad talking?
But I do have audio. We will be able to play those in a few minutes.
Oh, how's it going?
It's great.
All right, just let me know when you want to do that.
It's awesome not being able to see him and hear him. It's like he's in here somewhere.
I know, he's always had a godlike presence in my life, and certainly accentuates that. So Force Max wants to know, any chance of a Cave Story 2 ever? There's a chance, right?
Yeah, there's a chance. We just all have to collectively convince Pixel to do it.
So to recap, in order to get the level editor for, do you pronounce it V, or do you just go V?
So Terry, the creator, says you can either go 6 V's, the letter V 6 times, or V.
Okay.
So I choose V because it's 5 less. And then Danny Baranowski, the guy who did the music for Cave Story and for Cannibal, he calls it WWW.
Okay, now the problem is somebody asked that question.
Danny's pretty funny. Danny,
So way to go, Holmes. Way to go. Totally screwed the entire production. Whole thing's screwed.
Yeah, I know. We're still gonna play it a second time for people.
Yeah, so then they'll get to ask it again.
I did ruin it. Sorry about that. So, did you have a secret you might want to share with us, Tyrone?
Let's see if it works. So I remember that, Conrad was saying that we can't do screen share, but I really want to share this screen with you, so I'm going to try it. You ready for it?
Let's see what happens.
So, let's see. Let's try it. Hold on. Let's see if this works. So I got it like this.
Secret from Tyrone. What? What the hell is...
Tell me if you can see that.
I can see that. That looks like a mock-up of an action figure of Quote from Cave Story. Action figure and or statuette.
Whoops. Oh, you saw too much.
That's fine with me.
So,
I love it.
I want my screen back now.
Yeah, I realized when I talk, it just shows me staring at things. So they didn't actually get to see it. Only I saw it. So I stopped talking for a second so they could see it.
Oh, you only saw it.
Yeah, but then eventually.
Oh, that's even better. So everybody's.
Stop being a dick.
So everybody's gonna wonder what you were seeing, right?
Well, then I stopped talking.
You have an engineer for a reason.
What's that, comrade?
They saw it. They're all screaming, "Oh my God, want it? Take my money now!" Blah 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 blah.
Speaking of that, I remember you were working on a T-shirt a long time ago for Cave Story that was beautiful. Did that ever come out? I think it was also linked with Charity for Japan after the earthquake. Did I miss that? Did it come and go?
No, you didn't miss it. It's just that I'm a really picky perfectionist bastard when it comes to certain things, and we've been trying to find the right shirt material. We've been trying to find the right ink. Since it's like a blueprint, the lines tend to be really thin, and when you're using plastic or the ink on the shirt, we don't want the ink to crack. So right now we have Linsbot working on a new shirt design that will be much easier and faster to do.
So it's still happening, and you have Linsbot working on it, so it's going to be good.
She's working on a different shirt before we do the exploded quote shirt.
Oh, okay, awesome.
So
Speaking of Linsbot, did you know she did the intro for the show?
I didn't.
She did. She's not completely finished with it yet. So for this episode, we have kind of her blue sketch lines on it. But she's one of my favorite people ever. I'm so happy she works with you, and that you're giving her all these.
She's great.
Yeah.
Did she tell you you had a good time in Japan?
It was implied. I didn't actually ask. I was so jealous that you guys had that fun, and I did not have that fun. But anyway. That actually brings to my game pitch. That might be a new segment I do on this new show. I'm going to pitch games to developers and see if they'll make them. Now, Linsbot works for you pretty much. Is she an official employee? Is that right?
Yeah, she's an official Nicalis Linsbot.
Awesome. That's good.
She's the only one we have so far.
When I first met her, she wasn't working with you yet. She was just like working around you and just being in your headquarters, but I think it's good even that she works for you officially now. As you know, she does really good No More Heroes art.
Yes.
So my thought is for a Nicalis Destructoid Grasshopper manufacturer collaboration on a 3DS No More Heroes game. How do you like it so far?
I like it a lot. If you get Suda-san to go for it, we'll do it.
I have talked with Suda-san once, and I got his email address, so I could get working on it. My thought was that it would be impossible for it to be a big game at first. So either the goal, my mind, the goal would be a 2D beat 'em up for 3DS eShop with Linsbot doing the sprite artwork because they're little super deformed No More Heroes characters are amazing. And Suda actually has all those stickers, so he knows who she is. He met her that one time and introduced them.
Right.
And he loved all her stickers, so hopefully that's going to resonate with him. So the hope would be there would be a 2D beat 'em up in the style of Retro City Rampage, or I'm sorry, River City Rampage, but with that kind of Suda creepiness to it, where it's about video games. Because one of the things I love about his games is that they were about video games a lot of the time. For better or worse, he takes a look at the medium and its strengths and weaknesses and makes you really aware of them. So I was hoping to do that. That's a big project. So to start off, it would be better to just do a puzzle game like Puzzle Fighter, except it's in 3D. So if your blue falls down here, and then your red falls down in front of it, they make purple. So you've got two fields of Puzzle Fighter, but with No More Heroes characters fighting it out. What do you think? It's a good idea?
Sounds good. Hit them up. We'll do it, unless you're colorblind.
That's true, but if you're colorblind, then puzzle games are kind of dead to you anyway, for the most part.
Yeah.
So you don't hate my idea, Tyrone? It's just that easy?
No, I like it. I like it.
Let's just make
It
your
was
video
a pretty
game.
good idea. I like the idea of taking cool characters and putting them in a puzzle game. Like we've been wanting to do. It'd be really fun to make a puzzle game. But puzzle games are hard because it's difficult to make a good puzzle game.
That's true. That's why I'm just stealing Puzzle Fighter,
Maybe to
but
make
adding layers to
Just
it.
look at all the iPhone games.
Oh, they're really good. Are they? Puzzle games
No,
good
I
on the iPhone? No? What?
Oh, they're the exact opposite. There's a lot of shitty iPhone games, and I can see why people think they're only worth $1.
Yeah, that's the thing. If we were to release a puzzle game ever, the value of puzzle games as a genre is just been totally devalued by the amount that are out there and how cheap they are. So we couldn't sell it for more than $1, but hopefully we could make it cheaply too. Well, thank you for hearing my idea.
I like it.
I'm going to take your encouragement and try to make it real. Do you plan on doing a sprite revamp for Halloween like you did for Christmas? Asks the cool angel about Cave Story Plus.
Well, if I answer that, then it's going to ruin the surprise, isn't it?
Yeah, but we can take the fact that Cave Story WiiWare, you did that patch where Quote got revamped for Christmas, and he also got revamped for Halloween, kind of a Nightmare Before Christmas look with red eyes and white skin. So I'm guessing it's going to go good for us this year.
You know, Halloween is my favorite holiday.
Is it really?
So, yeah.
What do you like about it? The cookies?
The candy.
Yeah, the candy is good. And the
So
spooks,
much
you like
candy.
spooky times?
I like spooky times. I like a lot of purple and orange and black and scary characters. Ghouls and Ghosts was one of my favorite games when it was in the arcade. So
Yeah. That makes me want to ask you, when do you think it'll be that Nicalis makes a game from scratch? So far, you've taken great games that you love and encouraged their developers to add to them, and you've given a voice to developers who had a much smaller audience before. But do you think you'll be working on solely original games anytime soon?
there's a chance we might work on something quasi-original for 2013, but we will probably make an original game when we come up with an idea that we feel really strongly about.
Okay, that makes sense. And you've got so many other things going on. I mean, how many games do you have in development right now, if you had to guess?
Right now we're wrapping up Cave Story, we're wrapping up Night Sky for the 3DS. We have to finish shipping V for the 3DS. We are with two other developers. They're doing the development, but we're publishing 2 iPhone games. And right now we have one small surprise for the 3DS that you'll probably maybe see this summer. It's a very, very small surprise, but I think people will like it. And then we are working on a game that will be on the Wii U and 3DS as well.
What? What is it?
What's what? Wii U, it's Nintendo's
You're
new
telling me what
console. It's the successor to the
No,
Wii.
your game.
Um,
You're just gonna tell me what the game is, right? All about it right now.
oh yeah,
That's
you
an
play the
investment.
game, and in the game you have to try to beat the level, and if you don't, you die.
Did you say it's a 3DS Wii U? It's for both of them.
It's for both of them, yes. And
All right, so that you can tell me. I'm
and
being
it might be our
investigated.
it might be our first multiplayer game too.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
When do you think that'll come out?
We will probably make a formal announcement on it maybe by May. Right now we don't have too much to say yet.
Can I write a news story saying all the things you just said? Because I love
You
what you
can
said.
write a news story, absolutely.
Awesome. That was investigative journalism, everybody. You're welcome. I asked the man the
Yes.
question, and he gave me answers that he wanted to give me. I'm legit now. That was one thing. One thing a lot of people asked us is video game journalism or being in the video game press as fun and as easy as it looks? I didn't think it looked easy. Does it look easy?
I think it's a perception. It's a perception, right? Like you play video games all day. That's the perception. They forget about the writing part and cutting videos, and you have to sit down, and after you're done playing this rad game or not so cool game, you have to sit down and tell people what you like or don't like about it. And maybe that comes off as easy, but it's not always too easy to be able to articulate what makes a game fantastic or shitty. Yeah,
and earlier in the show you were talking about how much pressure there is to be fast and good because the internet is just it's a sea of competition in terms of video game journalism. Speaking from experience, I can say it's not easy at all. It's really difficult to take something you used to do instead of working and then turn that into your responsibility. Video games for most human beings equate, well, I'm doing this only for me. This is me time, playing video games. It's like when the ladies from Sex and the City just eat chocolate and ice cream and lie in their bed and cry. That's what we normally do when we're playing video games. Picture eating chocolate and ice cream for a living and then having to do it right. Eat that ice cream right, or else you're going to have a sea of fans belittle you and berate you, and you're not going to get paid that month. And it's really a lot of pressure to live up to the standards of both the readers and to live up to the competition that's out there. Because there's a lot of people that are doing this better than I am, and I can't do it as well as them unless I give it everything I've got and really practice and hone my craft as well as I can. So no, it's not easy. Long story short, writing about
even testing. I mean, testing. A lot of people view as, oh, that's an easy job. You play video games all day, but there's two sides to testing both. Imagine playing Ocarina of Time for 40 to 60 hours a week for a year, or not only playing one of my favorite games of all time for a year. It's not done, and it's crashing, and it's buggy, the story's incomplete, and it's not fun yet. Or, that's with a game I like. Imagine getting stuck playing a terrible game for a year.
Yeah, and that happens to a lot of people because it's their job to make it not terrible. Like, this game sucks, test it for us for 40 hours a week for the next 3 months until it's sort of fun. And then they don't listen to the testers' ideas either. It can be brutal. I don't know if you knew one of the co-directors of Indie Game, the movie, was a game tester for EA, and that got him feeling really weird about the industry and focused on wanting to tell the stories and part of the indie game people. So being a game tester is definitely an experience I think a lot of people should try. I did it a little bit. Yeah, you don't want to do it for real. No. You want to just do it to know about it.
When we're finishing a game and our tester comes to us and says, "Hey, I found a crash bug," right before we're ready to submit, it's not just us, but any developer, any programmer's not going to say, "Oh, thank you, you found a crash bug, you're the best." It's going to be, "Oh, fuck, shit, we've got to fix this now, I've got to stay on the weekend, thanks a lot, asshole." So yes, testers are the messenger and they get killed, unfortunately.
Yeah, I feel very bad for them. We've got 5 minutes left. How long has this been? An hour? This hour has flown by. Have I done good at talking? This is my first time doing the show.
Yeah, this is rad. You should do this every week.
Okay, I'll do it every week. It's Sunday on 1 p.m. to or 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's when I'm going to do the show. And feel free to come back on anytime, Tyrone. We're going to take our audio questions now. Whoa, who's that?
You ready to take these?
Yeah, let's take these questions, Sinstar. Wow, that cat's awesome.
We're going to have to check this. I'm not entirely sure how good the levels are going to be, so bear with me, please.
Take your time, Conrad. No problem.
I have another cat. It's also from Monster Hunter.
Oh, wow. You go to Japan a lot. I don't.
Okay, here we go,
You
guys.
should go to Japan with us.
I want to.
No, that's not right.
Conrad's trying to queue up the questions. We'll get him in there. I want to talk to you though. I won't. There's questions.
That's weird. That audio is completely silent. All right, let's go with another one. This could
Do
be
it,
very
Conrad.
loud.
It's gonna be loud. It's a ghost.
Oh, Blackie.
Yeah, none of my shit seems to be working, so that's good. Yeah.
Can you make
That's a good
voices,
question.
Conrad?
They're
Can you read their messages and like make a voice, like make your voice deeper or sound like a girl? Maybe that'll work.
Make your voice deeper, Conrad, like a girl.
Beware, I live.
A gentleman named Jamie from New Jersey asked a good question. I can't remember what it was. It was such a good video too. He had a little Pokemon walking in the background.
It was a really good question. Yeah, I want to get those videos up for next week, so maybe we can. I don't know.
If you asked a video question or audio question, please ask another one next week. I loved all your questions. I loved your burger question. You know who you are. Someone asked a really awesome question about burgers. Technically, we might not be able to do that this week. Though your burger question was kind of a universal question. We might be able to hit that one up next week instead. With hopefully it's going to be Shannon, who did all the Wii U coverage with me at E3 last year. Wonderful young woman. Have you ever met her, Tyrone? Wii U?
I haven't. I don't think so.
I think you two would get along very well. She's actually dating Tommy from Team Meat. I helped.
Oh, awesome! I do know Shannon. Then never mind. We went to dinner with Tommy in San Francisco last month.
Oh, that's fun. How was that?
It was a good time. It was a good time. We had a lot of tequila.
That does sound like a good time. I've never seen Shannon drunk, but if it's anything like Shannon sober, it's probably pretty fun and funny.
It's almost the same.
So,
She's just drunk.
Yeah, me too. When I might be drunk right now. You wouldn't know though, because I'm the same guy. Well, we have 2 minutes, I think. Is there anything you wanted to say, Tyrone? Is there anything we missed that you wanted to go over before we wrap the show?
On my end, thank you for having me, but also the Dtoid fans, readers, viewers are amazing. They've been a huge supporter of what we're doing and the developer friends we're working with. So it's really awesome to see a community like Dtoid. When I was in high school and when I was in college, we really didn't have the ability to be able to communicate so freely. So it's really amazing to see people be able to come together, whether they're yelling and screaming at each other about games they disagree on, or whether it's they're voting for what their game of the year is or what they want it to be. It's such a different game industry, and it's such a different fan side of it too. So I try to be as malleable as possible and try to keep an open mind, and that's why we really want to work with the fans and embrace the fans. And it's without them, we really can't do what we're doing.
Awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And to recap some of the stuff you said that people should remember, it's up to you if VVVVVV is going to get a level editor and user-created content on 3DS. So you have to make your desires known. And should they email you? Should they tweet to you about that at Nicalis on Twitter?
Yeah, at Nicalis. Also, I mean, if they really want to show that they're really interested, start making levels on the PC editor. We can already import those levels into the 3DS, and we can't guarantee that they'd be included in an update, but what it will show us is, hey, people are using the level editor and they are making these cool levels. I can pass all of these off to Terry and show him. But like I said, it'll show us that the fans are interested in making the levels, because it's pretty easy to say, oh, we want a level editor, but we want to see that they really do want to get into it and make these rad, amazing, difficult levels that are going to cause me to curse and spit at the screen.
So put their money where their mouth is, put up or shut up, as I think they say. Use the level editor that's out there now on PC. Let it be known that you want it for the 3DS, you might get it. And also let it be known that you want more Cave Story, because
yes.
Daisuke Amaya won't make it if he thinks you really want it. And he wasn't going to even make video games for a living unless he knew that people really wanted him to. So we've gotten him that far. Let's just push him a little farther and actually making a sequel to one of the best games that I've ever played. thing I wanted to say, I was gonna try to do a close off like how Jerry Springer does, because he's one of my heroes. He is such an inspiration. You know his
wanna kick me
closing
off
he
the
does
show
on the
then?
show? What's that?
Oh, you're talking about the you're talking like about the heartwarming closing, right? Where
Yeah, be good to yourselves and each other.
that's
Isn't
a
that
good start. Keep
heartwarming?
going.
Okay,
Keep going.
my closing is going to be this. I'm going to try to, I have it written below me. I'm going to try to act like I memorized it. This cosmic dance of bursting decadence and withheld permissions twists all of our arms collectively. But if sweetness can win, and it can, then I'll still be here tomorrow to high-five you yesterday, my friend. Peace. What do you think? How's that for a close? Is it good as Jerry
Great.
Springer?